Welcome to today's lesson on subtracting whole numbers. Today we're going to go through some practice problems to practice our subtraction. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin today by using our manipulatives on the screen to subtract 122 from 431. Now, as you can see, we have a 4 in our hundreds place, and we have 4 hundreds blocks to represent 400. We have a 3 in our tens place, and we have 3 tens blocks to represent 3 tens, or a value of 30. And lastly, we have 1 in the ones place, and we have 1 block to represent a value of 1. So let's go ahead and let's start working through this problem together. Whenever you're subtracting whole numbers, you always begin by subtracting on the right-hand side. So we're going to start with our ones place. Our problem is asking us to subtract 2 ones from 1. However, we only have one ones block here to subtract. That means we need to regroup a tens block and bring it over to our ones. So I'm going to cross out my tens block, and we're going to turn that tens block into 10 ones. Now, since I had to regroup one of my tens blocks, I'm actually going to cross out my 3 because I no longer have 3 tens blocks, and I'm going to change it into a 2 to represent our 2 tens blocks that we have left. And that tens block that I broke apart into 10 ones, I am now going to bring over to my ones column and put a 1 here to represent a value of 10. 10 plus 1 equals 11, and 1 and 1 shows a value of 11. So now I can subtract my 2 ones. I'm going to subtract 1, 2. And that leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ones. And if we look at our subtraction problem, 11 minus 2 equals 9. Let's go ahead and let's look at our next place value. Our next place value is asking us to subtract 2 tens from 2 tens. So I am going to cross out 2 tens blocks, and that leaves me with 0 tens blocks. And if we look at our subtraction problem, 2 minus 2 equals 0. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our hundreds place. We're being asked to subtract 100 from 400. So let's go to our hundreds blocks, and we are going to cross out 100. That leaves us with 1, 2, 3 hundreds blocks. And 4 minus 1 equals 3. So as you can see, 431 minus 122 has a value of 309. And that left us with 3 hundreds blocks, 0 tens, and 9 ones. Let's go ahead and walk through a couple practice problems together. I want you to subtract 653 minus 498. All right, let's walk through this problem together. We always start at the right-hand side, so we're going to be subtracting 8 from 3. But we can't take away 8 ones if we only have 3. That means we need to regroup our tens place, change our 5 into a 4, and then bring that tens block over to our ones place. 13 minus 8 equals 5. Now we have to subtract 9 from 4. But again, we don't have 9 tens to take away, we only have 4. So that means we need to regroup our hundreds place and break apart our hundreds block into 10 tens blocks. 14 minus 9 equals 5. Now we can subtract our hundreds place. 5 minus 4 equals 1. Great job! Let's go ahead and try another problem together. Can you subtract 719 minus 642? All right, let's go ahead and walk through this together. 9 minus 2 equals 7. Now we can't subtract 4 tens when we only have 1, so we need to regroup our hundreds place, turn it into a 6, And then take that hundreds block we broke apart and put it into our tens place. 11 minus 4 equals 7, and 6 minus 6 equals 0. Great job! Let's walk through a word problem together. Matthew had $315 saved to buy a bicycle. He found a bicycle on sale for $299. How many dollars will Matthew have left over if he buys the bicycle? Well, if we know he's starting with $315, we're going to put our larger number on top, 315, and then we're going to subtract the $299 that he spends on the bicycle. All right, let's go ahead and walk through this together. We need to subtract 9 ones, but we only have 5, which means we need to regroup our tens block and add it to our ones place. 15 minus 9 equals 6. Now when we move over to our tens place, we now have to subtract 9 tens, but we have 0, which means we need to regroup our hundreds block and bring 10 of the hundreds blocks over to our tens place. So now we have 10 minus 9, which equals 1. 2 minus 2 equals 0. So that means that Matthew will have $16 left over if he buys the bicycle. Let's take a moment to review what you've learned in today's lesson. When you're subtracting whole numbers, you always start on the right-hand side. Now we're being asked to subtract 4 ones when we only have 3. That means we need to regroup one of our tens blocks and break it apart into 10 ones. Now 13 minus 4 equals 9. Now we go ahead and subtract our tens place. 1 minus 1 equals 0, and 7 minus 5 equals 2.